Welcome to retreat. So if you haven't already guessed, which I'm sure all of you have by now, this weekend is all about childhood. And I know that for many, if not all of us in the room, we tend to not think of ourselves as children very often. We think, oh, we've gotten past that. And I can tell you for sure, when I was your age, I did not think of myself as a child. I didn't want to be a child. I wanted to be grown up. I wanted to take the next steps in my life. I wanted to do whatever was necessary to become an adult. I thought it would make me more free, and I wanted to know, what am I going to be when I grow up? How much money am I going to make? Am I going to be a mom? Am I going to be a wife? All these things. I wanted to have everything figured out. And that came with a lot of need to control aspects of my life, control people, control events, control places, anything that I felt like I could try to control, I would. And that's not reality. And so when I lost control, as eventually we all do, I would lose it. I would spiral, get emotional, and I was really tough to be around. So anyway, I think it's really helpful to just kind of take a step back and realize that you don't have to have it all figured out right now. Actually, none of us do, because we can't. But I find this topic of retreat super important, especially because in the culture today, we hear a lot about, free and, let's do what I want, whenever I want, however I want. And it can feel like when you're living under your parents' roof or you're at Life Team, there's, a lot of constraints to your freedom. And so part of childhood is you have those constraints, but they are actually designed to make you more free. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this week. But the first thing I want to just touch on really quick is what the Catechism says about freedom, because it's really important. It changes your whole aspect or your whole point of reference when you hear the word freedom. So actually, freedom is the ability to act or not act in the pursuit of goodness. And it attains its perfection when it's directed towards God or beatitude. So God is the only source of goodness, right? So when you're pursuing the good, you're pursuing God. So if you're pursuing something else, it's not freedom. Freedom is the pursuit of the good, the ability to pursue the good. So when we think about childhood, we can also think about this in terms of the world. The world says that at a certain age, you're no longer a child. You need to outgrow childish ways, and you need to mature. And in a lot of ways you do, right? You do need to mature. But the negative connotation of, being a child, it can sort of, distort the way you view your relationship with God. So another way to think about being a child is just being a son or daughter. We're all sons. We're all daughters. Well, we're not all sons, but we're all either a son or a daughter. So that is the meaning of child that we're speaking of. We have parents on earth, and we have a Father in heaven who loves us very much. Now, I know that this topic can be difficult for people because there are certainly people, maybe some of us in this room, who don't have a great example of a father on earth, or someone that doesn't have a great example of a father on earth. Some of you in this room, or people may not have a father figure in their life. The absence of a father on earth is a sad reality. So people grow up with a mother, which is wonderful, but that can also sometimes hinder our ability to relate to God as Father in the way that we should. because we can tend to project our feelings about, any brokenness in our own earthly experience. We can tend to project that onto God. And so what I would challenge all of you to do is to just, when you have that temptation to do that, or when you find yourself doing that, just remember that God created families, He created parents, and He made them good. But we are broken by sin, every single one of us in this room and beyond. So there are going to be really unfortunate and sad situations that people encounter, and that is not something that should be a reflection of God. That is a brokenness in the human condition that God did not intend for us. And so what I like to think about, I have a wonderful father, so I really am blessed, but what I like to think about when I think about God as Father is the story of the prodigal son. And so I'm sure most of you have heard the prodigal son a time or two at least, but I'm just going to summarize it really quick because it's important. So a son walks up to his father and asks for his inheritance, essentially, telling his father he wishes he was dead. So pretty cruel thing to ask your parent for your inheritance. And he goes and he squanders it in the worst ways. And when he finally realizes what he's done and he has contrition and he wants to be reconciled to his father, he goes to his father and asks to become his slave. And instead of making his son into a slave, what does he do? He slaughters the fattened calf, has a feast, puts a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, cleans him up, has a big party, and he welcomes him back as his son. And it's really beautiful because we're always going to fall short of what God intends for us. We're human, and He's always going to be that rock solid Father that we can come back to, and He's going to love us no matter what. We will not be His slaves. We will be His children, always. And there's nothing that can change that. For anybody that's baptized into the family of God, you cannot do anything that would make Him turn His back on you or turn you into a slave. And so with that, I'm just going to leave you with a few things. Once you accept God as your Father, once you recognize that He is your Father and you are His child, it should really bear fruit in your life. It should change your outlook on life. And so some things that I reflect on when I'm thinking about or praying about my relationship with God, it's humility and trust. I think a lot of times when somebody like me struggles with control, we're trying to play God. And so it's really good and peaceful to recognize that God is trustworthy. He has proven time and time again that we can rely on Him. We can trust Him, that He's always going to be there to love us and draw us closer to Himself. So just having that moment of humility and saying, okay, God, you are God and I am not. It actually just takes a load of pressure off. So I hope that is something that helps you too. Also gratitude. I have started to find so many things to be thankful for every day when I recognize God is such a good Father. Instead of thinking about my problems or my pain or my worries, I've just started counting the things that God gives me every day that I don't deserve, that He just does because He loves me. And then from that flows peace. Knowing no more anxiety, no more feeling the need to control things or people, just peace, because I know that God is a good Father, and I know that no matter what I do, if I turn back to him, he's there for me. And then the last thing is freedom. Just learning how to use my freedom in the right ways. Just constantly calling to mind that freedom is the pursuit of the good, which is the pursuit of God. So anytime I'm tempted to think, oh, I just want to do what I want to do, I try to call to mind that true meaning of freedom. And it really has been beautiful to just take a step back as I was writing this talk and reflect on the ways that God has set me free from some sins that had a pretty strong hold on me. And by pursuing God, that's the only way I could break free from those sins. So you're going to hear a lot more about this topic this week. So I would just encourage you to really start reflecting on your relationship with God. Open your minds and hearts to what the other adults are going to share with you this week, because I think it's just going to be so fruitful in your lives. So thank you, and let's go to small group.